Chapter 7, Development Strategies. Chapter Objectives. Describe the concept of software as a service. Define Web 2.0 and cloud computing. Explain software acquisition alternatives, including traditional and web-based software development strategies. Describe software outsourcing options, including offshore outsourcing and the role of service providers. Some of this is going to be presented like it's new, but this book was dated 2014, so a lot of this will be review, and a lot of this will be pretty obvious. Explain advantages and disadvantages of in-house software development. Discuss cost-benefit analysis and financial analysis tools. Describe a request for proposal, or an RFP, and an RFQ, which is a request for quotation. Describe the system requirements document. Explain the transition from systems analysis to systems design. Development strategies overview. A few years ago, companies either developed software in-house or purchased a software package. They hired consultants to perform the work. Today, there's more choices. There's ASP, or application service providers. Actually, e-learning here that you're using with this course is hosted by an application service provider. There's web-hosted software options, and there are firms that offer enterprise-wide software solutions. And again, that's our student information system here. Companies must deal with the impact of the internet, software outsourcing options, and in-house software development alternatives. The impact of the internet. So you've heard of SaaS, or software as a service. It was a prediction by Gartner, and it's listed here below. I'm not going to focus on Accenture or Gartner statistics too much in this class. Traditional versus web-based systems development. Traditional development. Systems design is influenced by compatibility issues. Systems are designed to run on local and wide area networks. Systems often utilize internet links and resources. Web-based features are treated as enhancements rather than core elements of the design. Development typically follows one of three paths: in-house, purchase of a software package with the possibility of modification, and use of outside consultants for development. So of the three options, I think in most cases the use of outside consultants leaves the most at chance. Here in our student information system at Albertus, like I said, it's a software package. Albertus has modified it quite significantly. If you look at all the different terms that we have during registration, that should be obvious to you that there's a lot of modification there. Many applications require substantial desktop computing and power resources. Security issues usually less complex than with web-based systems. Web-based development. Systems are developed and delivered on an internet-based framework such as .NET or WebSphere. It treats the web as the platform rather than just the communication channel. It's easily scalable and can run on multiple hardware environments, meaning anything with a browser pretty much. It's used for customer relationship management, or CRM, order processing, and materials management. So I can think of Amazon is a good example with a lot of this stuff. Treats the software application as a service that is less dependent on desktop computing power and resources. I don't know too many machines that don't run this software. Limits in-house involvement to a minimum as vendors install, configure, and maintain the system. It requires additional layers called middleware to communicate with existing software and legacy systems. Nowadays you'll also hear a lot more about RESTful services and RESTful APIs, which really kind of eliminate a lot of the need for middleware as it's becoming more and more of a standard. Evolving trends. Web 2.0 and cloud computing. Web 2.0 will enhance interactive experiences. There'll be a lot of wikis and blogs and social networking. Cloud computing may offer an overall online software and data environment. So we see that now with a lot of software as a service. There's platform as a service. There's infrastructure as a service. And all this is related to cloud computing. Outsourcing. The growth of outsourcing. A firm that offers outsourcing solutions is called a service provider. Application service providers, or ASPs, are firms that develop a software application or access to an application by charging a usage or subscription fee. An internet business service is also called managed hosting because they're managing it and they're running it. Web-based support for transactions such as order processing, billing, and CRM, customer relationship management. Outsourcing fees. A fixed fee model uses a set of fee-based on a specific level of service and user support. I know with the Aleutian application that we use as our student information system at Albertus that there is X number of hours of support that you're allocated per month, and based on the fee that you pay, that level of support can go up or down. A subscription model has a variable fee based on the number of users or workstations that have access to the application. And again, they have something similar to this where they have a particular license number of users of the system. A usage model or transaction model that charges a variable based on the amount of transactions or operations based on the application. So these are the different types of fees that you might run into. So let's continue on with outsourcing and discuss outsourcing issues and concerns. Mission critical IT outsourced if the result is cost attractive, reliable business solution, and it can affect day-to-day company operations and can raise some concerns because you don't necessarily have the power that you once had with your own IT department because it has been outsourced. I know I've called vendors for support many times and not gotten through to somebody right away. And I remember the fear associated with that, thinking, uh-oh, are they ever going to call me back, and when are end users going to start complaining? So, you want to have a good turnaround. And if it's your own IT department, it seems a lot more comfortable that way, even if it's not. Offshore outsourcing. Shifting IT development, support, and operations to other countries. You hear about offshore outsourcing to India all the time. Many firms are sending IT work overseas in an increasing rate. And I actually think that trend is starting to reverse now since this book's publication. The main reason is the bottom line, cost. Offshore outsourcing, however, involves some unique risks and concerns. Continuing on, let's go over some of our in-house software development options. Companies must choose whether it's better to develop its own systems or purchase, possibly customize, and implement a software package. Most important consideration is the total cost of ownership, or TCO. I hate to say it, but in most circumstances, I believe that implementing and customizing a software package is the best way to go, and we'll get into that. In-house software development options. Make or buy decision. The choice between developing versus purchasing often is called a make or buy or a build or buy decision. The company's IT department makes, builds, and develops in-house software. A software package is obtained from a vendor or application provider. So you can build small projects and applications. I don't think you're going to build an entire system, for the simple reason that you don't have the resources that a company dedicated to this sort of thing will in most circumstances. Reasons for in-house development. You have unique business requirements. There's the need to minimize changes in business procedures and policies. You need to meet specific restraints of existing technologies and systems that you have. You need to develop internal resources and capabilities. In other words, give your employees some skills. and you have maybe a unique set of security requirements. So reasons for purchasing a software package, like I said, the costs are almost always going to be lower. The implementation time will be less. There are proven reliability and performance benchmarks because, like I said, the external company is going to have a lot more resources that they dedicate to this full time. You will need a much smaller staff. Future upgrades are provided by the vendor, as well as regulatory changes such as taxes, financial aid changes, what have you. And you can obtain input from other companies as a collective, and so those other companies would be other companies that use the same software package. Let's now go over customizing a software package. You purchase a basic package that vendors will customize to suit your needs. You negotiate directly with the software vendor to make enhancements to meet your needs by paying for the changes. You purchase the package and make your own modifications if it's permissible under the software license. These are the three different ways that software customization can be taken care of. In most cases, I think you make your own modifications, and oftentimes these software vendors will have their own proprietary APIs. Creating user applications. User application using Microsoft Office. User interface is screens, commands, controls, and features that will enable users to interact more effectively with the application. A help desk or information center is responsible for providing user support. Screen and report generators allow users to design their own data entry forms and their own reports. And read-only properties make sure that users can view but not change data. In a lot of cases, you don't want a user to be able to just easily change a social security number, for example. The systems analyst's role. The decision to develop software in-house requires more participation from the systems analyst than outsourcing or choosing a commercial package. Evaluation and selection of alternatives is not a simple process. Systems analysts often work as an evaluation and a selection team. The primary objective being to eliminate the system alternative that will not meet the requirements. They also rank in terms of feasibility and present the viable alternatives to management for the final decisions. So there are financial analysis tools that determine payback analysis, return on investment or ROI, and it can also be useful in determining net present value. So when analyzing cost benefits, a cost benefit analysis checklist might appear as follows. It's a checklist to list each development strategy being considered, identify all costs and benefits for each alternative, the consideration for future growth and a need for scalability, support costs for hardware and software is mostly going to be fees, analyze various software licensing options, including fixed fees and formula based on the number of users or transactions. A cost-benefit analysis checklist will apply the financial analysis tools to each alternative. The results are then studied and prepared in a report for management. The software acquisition process. This is where we evaluate the information system requirements. We identify features that are relevant to us. We consider network and web-related issues. We estimate the volume of traffic and we determine the need for future growth, the specific hardware or personal constraints, and we prepare a request for proposal or a request for a quotation. So here's an online ordering system activity during the next 12-month period. And here's some examples of future growth and based on existing procedures and when the new operation is up. So here's some examples. Here's an RFP. This is actually a template that comes with this software. Step 2. Identify potential vendors or outsourcing options. The internet is a primary marketplace. Another approach is to work with an IT consulting firm. Another valuable resource is the Internet Bulletin Board system that contains thousands of news groups, which are basically similar to the forums that you've seen in this class. Let's talk about step 3, evaluating the alternatives. Existing users. You need to obtain feedback and learn about their experiences. You need to talk about the old system and what it does well and what it doesn't do well. And when I say the old system, I mean the existing system. Application testing. Is it possible for users in your organization to try the product? If it is, there are always online demos. There is online small versions where they can take a look at it. It gives them an idea as to what they might like, and like we've talked about, having users involved will make it something they're much more receptive to. Benchmarking. Measure the time a package takes to process a certain number of transactions. Match each package against the request for proposal features and rank the different choices. Step 4. Perform a cost-benefit analysis. Identify and calculate TCO for each option you are considering. When you purchase software, When you purchase software, what you are buying is a license, and that is very true. They'll give you the executables and the installers. If you purchase a software package, consider a supplemental maintenance agreement, and that's a good idea as well. So remember then, TCO is the total cost of ownership. Prepare a recommendation. Evaluate and describe alternatives together with the costs, benefits, advantages, and disadvantages of each different option. And then you're going to submit a formal system requirements document, and you're going to offer your presentation. Next is implementing the solution. The implementation tasks will depend on what you choose. If you choose a web-based system where the vendor will provide much of the support and the customization, implementation would not be on your organization as much as theirs. However, if you're supplying an in-house solution, then implementation tasks will almost entirely depend on you. Before the new software becomes operational, you must complete all implementation steps. This includes loading, configuring, and testing the software. It includes user training and converting data files to the new system's format. Here's the completion of the systems analysis tasks. It's the system requirements documentation. It's also called the software requirements specs or specification. It contains the requirements for the new system, describes the alternatives that were considered, and makes a very specific recommendation to management. And it's going to be like a contract, and you want it to be very clear and detailed because it's going to protect you in the future. Format and organize it so it's easy to read and use. Presentation to management. Review the suggestions in Part A of the Systems Analyst Toolkit. That's from the textbook. Summarize the primary viable alternatives. Explain why the evaluation and selection team chose that alternative. Allow time for discussion and Q&A. and obtain a final decision from management or agree on a timetable for the next step in the process. So here's where you want to really kind of say these are the best alternatives and try and get a final decision from management so you can proceed. Depending on their decision, your next task as a systems analyst will end up being one of the following: implement an outsourcing alternative, develop an in-house system, perform more work, or stop everything. Preparing for systems design. Systems design requires accurate documentation. You must provide detailed specifications for output, input, data, and processes. It requires logical and physical design. Logical design defines what must take place, not how it will be done. The physical design is going to read like a blueprint for the actual construction and development of the system. Now we're going to go through the chapter summary.